All right, guys, welcome. I'm so happy to see everybody here today. Like I mentioned, I was going to wait for a few more minutes just for other people to join in, but we can start the conversation. And when they join in, I can add them up. I'm so happy to see you all here today. This is the first session of the second season of our HerVersations series. And it's so wonderful to be back here on the BellaNaija Twitter space discussing with you all. For those who do not know, HerVersations was a series we launched earlier this year, focusing on women's economic empowerment and gender equality issues as it affects Nigerian women. So I'm so happy to have you all here. I can see a lot of women, I can see some men. I'm so happy everybody joined the conversation. Today's topic is something that's very interesting, and for the rest of this this season, from today till the 21st of December, the discussions are going to be very interesting. So I don't want you to miss anything. By 6 p.m. every Wednesday, we'll have a very interesting conversation for you. HerVersations is a series brought to you by BellaNaija Style and WRTHY. For more details, you can go to BellaNaijaStyle.com to learn more about HerVersations and how you can also be a part, lend your voice, and also join the conversations. Today's session is called Women, Work, and Mental Health in Nigeria. And I think it's such an important topic to discuss as a kickstart for this season because mental health is so important. But before I dive well into the topic of the day, I will just introduce our speakers. I know Anita is already here as well as Waje. So I'll go ahead and introduce our speakers and we can kick off the conversation from there. So we have on our panel today myself, who will be moderating the panel. Hello, everybody. My name is Mary Edoro, and I am head of content for BellaNaija Style. BellaNaija Style is Africa's leading tech-driven fashion media platform. But over the years, we have delved into issues that affect our audience more from not just the fly, fabulous angle, but also from the in-depth angle and policy changing angle. And so that's why we're having this conversation. Anita is joining this conversation, and Anita is one of Africa's leading makeup artists, and she's the creative director of Anita Brow's Beauty. Interestingly, she was one of the first beauty entrepreneurs to use personal branding as a way to distinguish herself from the bandwagon and create a brand that is both interesting and respected in Nigeria and across the African continent. I enjoy so much watching her daily reels, her lifestyle videos, her cooking videos. They're also interesting, which also adds to the essence of her, not just as a business owner, but also as a woman living in Nigeria and in Lagos, where I also live. On the Over her 10-year career journey, she has won a number of awards and notable achievements, including the Future Awards Prize for Beauty in 2017, and she has also been listed on Forbes 30 Under 30 under the business category. Anita is no joke, like she's a big deal. So I'm so happy to have her here. As well, you know, Waje. Waje is one of the biggest legends in the Nigerian music industry. She has a music career which spans almost 2 decades, 5 recorded albums, and a sixth one which is expected in December this year. If you didn't know now, Waje's new album is coming in December and we're so excited. Waje is no doubt a household name. And one thing we love about Waje is that her brand speaks to resilience, youth empowerment, skill development, and heritage. Never fleeting, continuously evolving. Waje has been an ambassador for One Org and a coach on The Voice Nigeria since 2016. Wow, guys, I'm very excited about our speaker lineup today. And while we wait for Falana, who will also be joining the conversation, we'll go right in to today's topic. So in Nigeria today, mental health in the workplace, in short, mental health in general, is still a relatively new topic. There are a few corporate organizations that take mental health for their employees, for their staff, even if it's your maid, even if it's your driver. A lot of people don't take mental health as a top priority. In a private survey from 2018, it was discovered that compared to males, women in Nigeria have significantly higher rates of depression, among other mental health complications. There's no doubt that women suffer from poor mental health caused and boosted by systemic inequality. Add that to domestic responsibilities, childcare, previous traumatic experiences, sexual etc., all the things we have to go through. This topic is truly a tricky one, and I can't wait to delve in with our hosts. So, right off the bat, I will ask Waje. Hi, Waje. Hi, Anita. I'm so sorry. I've been speaking for like 6 minutes. Hi. Hello, ladies.
Hello, how are you?
Hello.
How are you? I hope your
Hi.
day is going great.
Yeah, I'm good.
Uh,
I'm very well.
I
Thank
realized
you.
I've been rambling on and on. I've just been rambling, but I'm so happy to have you both here. So Waji, I'll just ask you first. As a woman in the media industry, what are some main stressor points that directly? I mean, before we go into the tricky stuff, what do you think about the topic? What do you think about this topic, and what are some of your expectations for this conversation?
Well, I honestly think it's so timely. Mental health is something that we have neglected for so long, and it's great that people are becoming more aware of how important it
Yeah,
is in everyday life, not just in our workspace, but like being a wholesome human first. You get what I mean? So it's actually a great it's a great thing that we are discussing it now, especially as women. I don't you You're in the media space, you
yeah,
hear a lot of stuff that's been happening. A few days ago, mommy called me sometime around 11:30, and she was close to tears and crying about how many women are committing suicide from one thing or
wow,
the other, and I'm like, yes, because sometimes, not sometimes, we are taught to be, or most times the focus is be powerful, be successful, be the best that you can be, but nobody's
mm,
asking the quiet questions of, are you okay? How are you doing it? Do you need a break? It's okay to take a break. um it's okay to say no, when you feel like you're under pressure. How it relates to me, it's okay to take a hiatus, or whatever the word is, like literally just tell yourself, okay, 1 year I'm not working, I'm not doing anything, I'm just
yeah.
going to focus on me, which is what I did in 2018. You know what I mean? So I'm grateful that this is the conversation that we're having now. Yeah.
Thank you so much, and I'll circle back to 2018 and um really your thought process through all of that. But in the meantime, let's talk about being a woman in media, especially in this new age, and maybe you can even touch on 2018 and what happened there, and how you have come out of all of that. What are some of the major stressor points that directly affect your mental health in terms
The
of
pressure.
career? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's the pressure, the the heights that we set ourselves up for, like, especially in the media space, the expectations, for lack of a better word, you understand. And sometimes it's not even the expectations of other people, the expectations you have of yourself,
mm,
and that can even put you through so much pressure that, sometimes it's like you're racing against time, and you think, oh,
yeah,
especially with this generation, young women, oh, at this age I have to be able to do this, I have to be able to do that, and the truth is, I'm sure Anita would agree, especially being as successful as she is and having colleagues who are also in the same space with her but are her friends, that everybody's journey is
mm,
different, you know. But the thing is that many times, because of these expectations that we have of ourselves, we never really pat ourselves on the back and tell ourselves, okay, I'm going at my pace, it's okay, I'm doing fine just as I am, So then you now go into that pressure, and sometimes even the success in itself, you understand, you get to a height, you get to a successful place that you're comfortable with, and then keeping yourself there, that's pressure of that the pressure of that as well is another part of it, of
mm,
why a lot of people in my industry, in my career, with the experience in my career, because uh success is relative, and many
true.
times people ask me, um during interviews, they'll ask me, oh, Waje, what was the one thing, or when was the one time you really said, oh, you had gotten it? And initially I used to answer that question, but with thinking more about myself. I'm loving myself and giving myself pace. I started answering it differently, because there's really no height in success, so to speak. To me, success is wealth,
Mm.
right? So you cross one hurdle, and you pass one part of success, and then you set another bar for yourself, and it just keeps going and it keeps going and it keeps going. So what's the break? How do you stop? When do you breathe? So that's why I stopped answering that question. Usually when I'm asked that now, I tell people, well, every day is a successful day, depends on what I want to achieve
Exactly.
for
Yeah.
that day.
Mm-hmm.
And I promise you, even if it's just to drive to a restaurant and get myself, I'm a caffeine addict, so to get myself a nice cup of cappuccino, caramel cappuccino, my dear, na success, because you get people who drive, they not reach there. Do you get what I mean? So I think
Yeah.
it's also perspective, how we see things,
Yeah.
how we view things, and how comfortable we are in our space to defend what we view personally. So yeah, it's a tough time in this dispensation, I won't tell you a lie.
Yeah. Very
But
true.
yeah, it is, but I think that we just having these conversations will save a lot of our sisters, so that's a good thing.
I completely agree with you, and very strong points. Like every day is a success story, honestly. I saw something that said, "Oh, I woke up today, I've achieved my success." I mean, I know sometimes it might sound like you're under delivering, but still, let's learn to appreciate the small wins. And Anita, while I was going through your profile, I saw a quote, so I really like to hear your own thoughts on this. And the quote said, "Never get too comfortable with your current level of success. You will end up floating on the same pace while someone else takes the lead." And I really like that as well. But currently, like Waje has said, sometimes, like, where is the stopping point? We're all grinding, and you've done so fantastic with your brand. Not many people can take makeup artistry to the level that you have taken it to, but at some point, like, it must get a bit difficult. Or, I mean, what do you think?
Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for having me on this. So I'm going to take it from, I love your question that you asked me. I'm going to take it from where Waje stopped. And I think we're in the era of the pressure is getting worse. I'm sure
Mm.
you era
Uh-oh.
is
Hi, Anita. Oh, we lost you for a quick second. Hello, Anita. Can anybody else hear me? Hi, Waje. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Oh, okay, okay. I wanted to be sure. Oh, it seems Anita's internet is a bit. Hi, Anita. Are you
I'm
back
back.
now?
Sorry. Yes, I had to turn off
Oh,
my people kept calling me.
oh.
Anyway,
Okay, okay.
yeah. Okay, so I was on the pressure is getting worse. Now the
Yes.
problem with that is we're in an era where we laugh at a lot of things, and really and truly the quote "the pressure is getting worse" is a big problem, because I can imagine so many people are behind their phones and looking at what everyone's doing and
Mm,
wondering, oh God, when is it my turn? Or it's a joke now, but I genuinely don't even think it's a joke. Um, for me, when I wrote that quote, I was talking about people that are still in the journey. And,
mm,
when you get too comfortable and you see people doing what you want to do when you should be doing it, it can drag you back. But for me, I think I've gotten to a point where I'm so aware of self, and I have a great work life balance. It has not always been that for me. I think I was at a point in my life where at that point I don't think I was fully aware of mental health, but I definitely think I was struggling, majorly because I really didn't know where I was.
mm,
I was in that floating stage, and it wasn't until when I became completely aware of self that I started to realize that I want to do things when I want to do this. I'm not in a hurry to do this. um, my success is my success. I'm not,
mm,
using someone else's success to gauge my success. To be very frank, I don't really, I know quite a number of people in my industry, but I do not care what they're earning. I do not care, how many clients they have. And
Mm.
this is me being 150% honest. People say, oh, but you need to, gauge your competition. But I'm just like, I don't really, I'm just doing my thing. And,
Yeah.
I have some things written down that I want to, achieve for myself.
Mm.
If the next person has done that like 5 years before, I really don't care. But I've gotten to a point where I'm completely self-aware and I'm completely
Yeah.
satisfied with wherever I am. And I don't really use that quote, "The pressure is getting worse," a lot anymore, because, like I said, I'm very self-aware now. So a lot of things that I say, I make sure it kind of tallies with where I'm at in my own life. Even though it's a joke, I try not to use that too much. Expectation versus reality is a big thing. And
Yeah.
if you keep feeding the expectation of quote unquote social media, um, it might not balance up with your reality. So it's very good to be honest with oneself in whatever it is you're doing, in my field as well. And with
Yeah.
the beauty industry, it is extremely saturated. I still have to say, oh, should I get into the makeup industry? I know lots of people are in it, blah blah blah. My response has not really changed over the past years. My response has always been, well, you know people, if you go into a supermarket, you still see about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 brands of bread, and that's just one supermarket, not to talk of
Yeah.
other
Mm-hmm.
breads in other supermarket, and they're selling to whoever their customer is. Really, it just depends on how you push your brand. Again, that brings us back to yourself, investing
Yeah.
in yourself, and not using someone else's clock to define yours. But yeah, that's really
No,
it.
absolutely, absolutely. And I
Yeah,
think both yourself and Waje pretty much said the same thing, because Waje is saying,
yeah.
success is relative to you, and
Mm,
it's based on your own metrics. And you're also
yes,
saying, I'm doing my own thing. I have my own targets. I have what I
yeah.
want to do. There'll always be everybody else doing what they want to do, and that's fine. But I have my own metrics for gauging my own success. Um,
Right.
I
You,
mean, I want to
go on.
bring it back to a more personal level. Now,
Right.
I know the first question was all stressor points in terms of mental health, but
Mhm.
for you, Anita, what
Mhm.
are some factors that may cause stress, a strain on your mental health? And, I know you mentioned being self aware. What are
Yeah.
some triggers for you as a woman living in Nigeria that, they affect your mental health? That are not necessarily, they could be work related, they could be external factors.
Definitely, number one is responsibility. I know that's work related, but responsibility is number one. Not responsibility as regards, people that I have to feed or whatever, but for me, it is staff. My staff are not just, staff people that come to work, but I worry about my staff a lot. I'm not even, it's a huge worry, and they might not even know it, but it keeps me up at night a lot of times. Um, I, Before I would say, oh, before I would have said to you that, there's no time, but I don't think I'm there anymore. In fact, I was so happy to be on this conversation because I feel like I've had a turnaround with my mental. You
Yeah.
understand? But before I would say to you that, oh, there's no time, but I literally don't even like, if I was to have a child, God willing, if I have a child at 35, if I had a child at 40, I really don't care anymore. But for
Mm.
me right now, it's responsibility. That's the major thing. In Nigeria, discrimination, against women is it's a huge factor.
Very
Um,
true.
you know, it's things that people these are things that people sweep under the rug, but I know that I complain about it a lot. I know it bothers me. I might not bring it home. I might worry about it for a few seconds, but it's these little worries that kind of span into other things. It's being out with friends. Maybe you're with some guy, your male friends, and it's the way you watch how the male gender is treated,
Yeah.
as opposed to how you're treated.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was out with a friend of mine. I'm just gonna give the scenario. I was out with a friend of mine, and the funny thing is, I was actually, between you and I took my friend out. When don't worry, I'll take you to lunch, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I remember we're out, and the way Nigeria has something for us now. And my friend literally, and I was already getting upset. And my friend actually said to them that, do you realize that I didn't even bring money out? The woman is there, you're not even going to meet her. To ask, it's these little things. It's, driving on the road and someone seeing that it's a woman in the car, and then the way they, respond to it, things like that. It's those little things that and I've just come to realize that over the years, that has been a trigger for me. I don't think I paid that much attention to it, but it's very frustrating. Even down to the security at the gate. You can tell the way they,
Yeah,
respect the men compared to the women and stuff. So it's those little things have a huge effect. But for me,
very
number
true.
one responsibility in Nigeria where I'm at, it's the discrimination against women. There's the expectation as well. I know that a lot of people expect so much from me. You know what? My world revolves around my job, because when I talk about expectations, I talk about my staff that work with me as well, because
Yeah,
I know there's a lot they expect from me also. So having to wake up and say to myself that having to say to myself that, okay, have I been able to? Am I meeting the expectations of my staff? Am I being the leader that I should be? Things like that. So yeah, that's it really.
thank you so much. I think you really hit the nail on the head in terms of being a woman in Nigeria. In short, sometimes you're not even looking for trouble, and then you just get all these little triggers here and there that they seem trivial, but when it happens over and over again, it becomes truly annoying. It becomes really annoying. But Waje, I saw you, giving Anita the thumbs up where she was speaking of responsibilities. Are there any? I mean, I think this takes us back to 2018. But are there some personal scenarios or life lessons on the
Well,
downside of negative mental health?
yes, definitely. Because with I'm somebody who's been, one of my biggest turn-ons is character.
Mm,
I've always been a person of character and discipline. And the thing is, we are all evolving and trying to improve daily. So that's one thing I'm very aware of. I'm aware of improving and evolving. It's crazy that Anita said something about improving your skill, because I still take vocal lessons. I still
mm.
take,
Wow.
I'm still in songwriting school. Even though I have almost 2 decades, I've been
Yeah.
for many years in the industry, but I'm still trying to improve myself. So sometimes it's a trigger for me when I don't find many competent people that will give me the same energy that I'm giving them. And it
Mm.
stresses me out. Do you understand? And that's me being honest with you. It really does stress me out when, you know, I have these are my expectations of
Yeah.
you,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that I will bring this to the table. This is the value I'm bringing, and I'm expecting that same exchange. And honestly, I'm not getting the same back, the same energy back. Um, what Anita said about discrimination, I remember one time I had to fire um, my former driver. Why? Because he almost hit someone, and because
Wow.
he used his brake so hard, from the back, I was sitting at the back, so I hit my head. And as you know how you're in pain and you're like, oh, what now?
Yeah.
He yelled at me, and it was so
What?
funny.
Wait,
The way
what?
he yelled at me, I didn't respond though. I was just looking at him
What?
like, is this film? Abi, you know what? And the truth is, if it was a guy, the first thing that will
Never.
come out
Mm-hmm.
of his mouth is, "I'm sorry, sir." But he
Mm-hmm.
yelled at me and said, "Madam, it's not my fault. It's the guy." But
Wow.
you understand? Whatever you did, I'm hurt in the process. All you needed to say was, you know, "I'm sorry you hit your head." So these are
Exactly.
the triggers that that are my experiences with mental health and how I deal with people, really. So sometimes, one of the things I do so well now is I literally guard my territory. Once I sense that this thing is going to be a problem for me, because I know that I have worked so hard to get to this point mentally, I shut it down fast and look for a
Yeah.
way. Yeah, so that's just me. Yeah.
I resonate with a lot of things that you mentioned in terms of even having expectations from people that you work with, your team. And then when there's that gap, it's like, it's a stressor point. Like, it's not easy. And us as women, I feel like sometimes people they already give us the character that we're just portraying. So, for example, if as a woman, and because I do work in corporate, I know how when you send emails, if you're a woman, you send an email and then it seems a bit people would automatically assume that you're in a bad mood. But this is just how men send emails. And I know I saw there was a thread, I don't know if it was on Twitter, I saw it on Instagram, where people were like, oh, email like a man. And it was so hilarious because when I started to think about it, it was completely true, because there's some things that men would write and say and it's just like, oh yeah, okay, cool. But then once it's a woman, the instruction is coming from, it's a bit off. And even a personal scenario, but this is for my sister who works in like core corporate, where she had a team member who wouldn't take orders from her because she was a woman and he was a man. But in the office he was very humble and very, amenable, and but once he gets home, and most likely he's beside his wife, he wouldn't take orders from my sister because she was his boss, but he was beside his wife, so he wouldn't take orders. It's not seamless like a man, or I really don't know. So these things are really, really like, it's something that I can't place my finger around, but I feel like we've gotten to a point where it's enough. Like, it's enough. We're more educated, we're more enlightened than some certain behaviors. Um, I'll just circle back to our next question, because I know both of you spoke about employees and having been responsible for your employees, expectations from your employees. I know mental health has become a buzzword in today's corporate world, and we do speak about it like we're doing right now. But how do we ensure that we're effectively working towards improved well-being and not using it as a buzzword and an excuse to underdeliver and perpetuate negative values? Now, just to simplify the question a bit, I saw a thread where someone said, and I think it was a video, sorry. I saw a video where someone said, oh, people that base their whole personalities on things like zodiac signs. And the comedian was making a fun of the person and say, oh, we can't take your rude attitude. Be like, oh, I'm a Virgo, so I don't, but I feel like people now do this in terms of mental health as well. And, we see people making excuses for under delivering at work, under delivering in their jobs, and say, oh, I was mentally ill or something. Although we shouldn't laugh at people, but how do we ensure that we're effectively working together as a group? How do you ensure that your staff, your employee is working effectively, and you're taking into account their mental health and not allowing their excesses? Anita, I think I'd like to hear from you.
Okay, so for me, I've become super sensitive. I know I've spoken about my staff quite a few times on this thing, but for me, I've learned to have personal conversations with them. And I understand that Nigeria is not an easy place, and I can categorically tell you that this past 3 months, as an employer, I've heard so much. My employees are going through so much, not because
Mm.
of not because they're not being paid well or they're not enjoying their job, but Nigeria has literally happened to everybody,
Mm.
and a lot of times their frustration can enter the workplace, and I've become very, very sensitive to that, not in a negative way, but I've become extremely understanding of the situation. It's a thing where I've had to say to each of them that if you're going through something, please don't hesitate to call me, or if you're struggling to sort something out, please call me, outside of Anita Brown, so that way, because at the end of the day, they're working for me, and
Yeah.
whatever happens to them outside of the workplace would affect their productivity in the workplace. So I've learned to have personal conversations with them, and there's this thing where it's very bad. It's not a good thing to be absent minded as an employee, because sometimes you can genuinely see that someone's going through something, and they just cannot come and meet you. So it's as easy as going up to them and says, everything okay at home? Even if everything's okay, but you're sensing something's off, ask a few
Yeah.
times, just so you're clear. So I've become very, very sensitive, and I know that has kind of that has kind of calmed the air a little bit, because I can tell you that in, let's say, October, I was not, let's say, September, October, I was a bit frustrated because I wasn't really understanding. But then when I had a conversation with a few of them, I understood that Nigeria has just happened to them. Even with
Mm.
transportation, my staff, they used to take Uber. Now they've resorted to now looking for public transport because
Oh
Uber is now
wow.
tripled. It's crazy, things like that. So yeah, I've just become a bit more sensitive, and if I feel like they need time off and they're genuinely not doing something at work, I'll say, oh, you can go home early, or things like that,
Yeah. I,
just so
I,
they
I
have
think
time.
I think that's really amazing. Waje, what do you have to say?
Well, yeah, I agree. So I'm a team player, and fortunately for me, I don't know. I think I've just been lucky with staff. I've had people work for me for a really long time, like long years,
Hmm.
and that's because I guess over time I just had to master empathy, like showing people that you care about them. Just you know how you feel when it's the same system that is a therapist would use. Yeah, probably not solving your problem, but just that you sit there and you're able to talk to someone who's asking you the right questions and helping you answer those questions by yourself. So that those are kind of the things I do with my staff most
Yeah.
times. The kind of structure that I have, because I changed management 2 years ago, so the kind of structure that I have, we structured it in a way that a certain percentage of what I earn, very little percentage, would mean like 2% of what I earn goes to a different account. That over time, if maybe a staff member's mother is sick or something like that, we can help out. So we may not be able to help with all the bills, but we shall find a way to help. And I feel like what that does is you find people who want to be part of your vision and part of your dream. So they see value in what they are doing with you and why they are working with you.
Yeah.
When I have people come over, maybe I'm doing a job interview or something and I'm asking them questions, I ask them why you want to work with me. Because if you're here because you're looking for a job, this might not just be the place. But if you
Mm,
find purpose in working with my brand, that way it's easier for me to be of value to you. So not just the money that you're making, but also helping you grow. Because half of my staff, I'm older than most of them. So I'm not just your boss. I'm in
yeah.
some way your older sister, but also making sure that I don't drain myself because I also need to take care of myself as well. So that's why these structures are put in place. So when I'm not there to, do these things for them, the management has a way that these things are sorted. But yes, like Anita said, showing empathy and just sitting with them and finding out what's going on in their lives and how they can sort it out, just kind of makes them feel like, okay, this woman, she's not using us, she actually cares about our well-being, and it goes a long way.
Wow, that's so incredible. Thanks so much, Anita and Waje. I feel like this points that you've both just shared just debunks one of the oldest myths in the book, where they say women leaders are very wicked and aggressive. I don't know if it's only me that has heard this thing. For our audience listening in, you can tap in if you want to ask a question, if you want to shed more light on something that we're talking about. You can also tweet underneath the conversation and I'll pick your question. I can see some questions are already there. But I feel like so far we've seen women leaders who have employees, who have people that they're responsible to, and they make them feel seen. I think that's what I got from both of you. You make your employees feel seen, you make your staff feel loved and appreciated in the workplace. And I think that's so important for women who hire, women in places of leadership. That's something that we're always being misjudged about. It always seems like we're wicked or we're evil or we're the we're the bad guys. But I feel like women have this empathy which just brightens up a team or brightens up a place. Um Circling back to you, Anita. Guys, again, please, if you want to ask a question, you can request to join in. You can also tweet underneath this conversation thread, and I will take your questions and ask to our amazing speakers. Okay. So for Anita, I know that you have spoken about being self-aware, a lot of the things that you do for your team. What are some of the practices that you have cultivated personally to boost your own mental health?
It's I love because there's quite a number, but for me, number one, I switch off a lot. And
Mm,
yeah, I switch off a lot. Once I see, so I'm very sensitive when it comes to anything, when it comes to things to do with like death, people passing. I tend to switch off of social media so that way it doesn't affect. Then number two, I would definitely say soft life. Like I'm pro soft life.
yes.
Anyone that follows me on social media, they know that.
Yes, please.
I do anything soft, I'm there.
I enjoy going out to eat. I don't my confidence level has gone to a point where I go out to eat by myself. Like a lot of people have seen me in fancy restaurants, dressed up eating, and they come to me and say, "Oh, are you waiting for someone?" I'm like, "No, I'm just here alone, just
No.
enjoying the meal." I do it all the time. I try to cancel idleness because I noticed that when I'm idle for too long, yeah, just thoughts creeping, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and I've started doing extracurriculars, so I started swimming as well.
Nice.
And I would advise people to just find what they love most, what they enjoy doing, and find an extracurricular. Because I think in Nigeria we don't really do a lot of that. Our own is just to walk, go on social media, and watch the latest movie.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people, I love that I see people doing tennis now, people going to the
Mm,
gym, things like that. I feel like it's so important to find something outside of work, outside of or making money, things that just bring you joy. Find
true.
that, find it, and just add it to your routine every week. Um, and for me, like you said, I'm a leading lady, quote unquote,
Yes.
but
So
it can affect your mental health because people expect so much from you. It's important to just switch off and remind yourself of who you are outside of work, outside of expectations of others.
I absolutely agree. I absolutely love that. Me, I'm a soft life connoisseur. Any day, any place. I would say yes to living your best soft life and just taking things easy. Waje, I'd love to hear from you. I know
Shout out
you
to the
have
soft
a
life team.
soft life team, or I know you're on this team with us. So give us the tea.
So I have a very Aunt Ebon. Some of you know her, Bookie HQ. So years ago, when I was having my own issues trying to figure out what was working for me or what would work for me, she told me to write down 5 things that I must do every day that I absolutely love, that I don't need anybody else to help me do, if that makes any sense. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying. So by the time
Mm,
I figured out the 5 things, I do these 5 things every day. I don't need anybody to help me work out those 5 things. It's not like, oh, I need to go somewhere that I say, oh, I need somebody to drive me, or this is just me. So I love burning candles. I love a place that smells beautifully. You come to my house, there are candles and incense everywhere. That's me. So
wow.
every morning I must light my candles for 20 to 30 minutes. I love the energy it brings. I love that my house is scented. That's me. I love my coffee in the mornings. I must have my coffee. I love to work out. So I'm in the gym every morning, and I'm an early riser when it comes to I don't know, there's a surge, there's an energy that bursts out of me when I get to the gym at 6 and I leave at 7. You need to see me when I'm driving home. I feel like I should be a superhero or something. So I gas myself. I love it. And then I love when I'm able to do something that I've not that I tell myself I can't do. You get. So at
Mm,
some point it was I started taking salsa lessons, and I did it every day until I became a great salsa dancer. It's not like I go to parties and start dancing salsa, it's just for my own consumption.
yeah.
Now I've enrolled in pole dancing for my own consumption.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
It
mm-hmm.
has nothing to do with anybody else. But my point is, we all have to find things that we enjoy doing and make sure that we do those things for ourselves, because you might not know, but you're just literally expanding yourself, expanding your life, and giving yourself um dopamine without
Mm,
the
mm.
drugs. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I
Very,
do.
very amazing points from both of you. What I've heard is just live your life. Like you are a person who is this. Okay, Waje is an amazing musician. Anita is an amazing makeup artist and founder, but she still invests her time, her passions, and explores other things. So live your best life. That's just what it is. We had someone who wanted to join in. Simi, do you have something you'd like to share to add to the conversation?
Yes, so to add to what Anita and Waji just said, yeah, being a woman who owns a business or even just works, goes to work every day can be challenging. And I found specifically for me, in my case, that when I started my business, it was extremely challenging on my mental health. And I found it very hard to just find balance between my actual life I was living and my work life. And so
Mm.
I would say for the first year or so, I really struggled a lot. And it affected the quality of my friendships. It really affected the quality of my life overall. And at some point, I just had to make a conscious decision to add in each day of my life some sort of joy or hobby or something that I was doing that had nothing to do with my work, in order to pull me away from that and to remind myself that I am not my work and my work is just one aspect of my life. And I think over time it's become easier to find balance,
Mm.
but also it's important to acknowledge the fact that not everybody is um able to necessarily on their own just like find that time or the space or create the space within each day to have that joy. And so just being able to just share with other people about my struggles, I think sometimes helps, because sometimes people don't even realize that they are overworking or not making space for their mental health and their
Mm.
own lives, until you start talking about it with them.
Very
So
true.
that's why I tuned into this space, honestly, because just having conversations about work life balance is important, because it helps some people realize that they're not practicing work life balance. And so, thank you for doing this space, and you are all making some amazing points here. So,
Thank
Thank
you so much, Simi.
I just want to add to something you said to me, Simi. And another thing is, I realize that sometimes, just us being honest with what we can control
yeah,
and allowing what we can't control not be something that, like, be intentional about not letting it, interrupt our lives or weigh us down is it makes it such a relief. And I'm saying
yes,
experience because there was a time when the things that I didn't have control of, especially in my industry, my work used to weigh me down so much that I became ineffective. I just really didn't do, I was paralyzed by the things I was paying
Mm.
attention. But the things that I can control, since when I say focusing on the things that I can control, no matter how little, I found out that I was becoming more effective. You get, so I had more time to actually live rather
yeah.
than trying to figure out, oh, why am I not getting this, or why is this not happening, or so it's great that you made those points, because that just kind of made me reflect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Waje. I
I
think
was
for
also
me, it's also sure.
I was
Go ahead, Anita.
sorry. I was also gonna say, like, it's the thing that Waje was saying. I didn't even think about that. Your personal space is so important. When Waje spoke
Mm.
about the candles, like, it was like light bulb. Like, in the morning, I'm usually just walking around, turning my diffuser sticks, lighting candles, and it makes
Mm.
such a difference. I have to I'm trying to echo it again so people understand that your space is it will help the way your mind thinks.
True.
Even if
Very
it's to
true.
declutter. Hoarding is a disease in Nigeria for sure. You
Disease
know,
generally, yeah.
yeah, hoarding is a disease in Nigeria. Even if it's to clear out your entire house and get rid of things that you've probably not used in less than in about 8 months, get it out. Clear the space. Air it out. Light candles. Make sure the room smells nice. Things like that. It will make a huge difference in how you think, how your mind works. That's it.
I very much agree with what everybody has shared. I think it's so important to have your personal space. It's also important to just have different aspects of your life that feed you in different ways, have different parts of your life. Even if you have a stable, great job, also diversify to different parts of your life that will feed you, that will keep you in a good mood. Waje gets her daily dopamine shots from the gym and she's ready to go. She's fired up. Anita has her diffusers, her incense is lit, and is having a lovely time. For me, I think one thing that really helps me is just talking to other people. So I grew up in a big family and I have three older sisters, and my mom is always very chatty with me. So it helps me a lot when I don't even have to talk to her about say what is troubling me or when I'm feeling anxious. I just need to go and she starts to gist me about when she was in one secondary school and this happened and that happened, and those types of stories just uplift me. Apart from even with family, talking with other women who are in same industries as I am, in the same space as I am, really helps me. Which brings me to my next question. Um, I think one of you can take this or both, just so in case they are overlapping answers. But what are some existing support groups or projects for mental health that you are involved in? Waje, would you like to go?
Yeah, so I can't even remember. So there's one I'm majorly involved in now, but I can't even remember the name. But
Uh-oh.
my manager is actually here. We're starting the hub next year.
Oh,
It's
nice.
Yeah, and the whole point of the hub is because I just feel like a lot of women in my industry need the support mentally, not just with their careers, but also mentally. So I wanted a space where young producers, songwriters, singers, sound engineers, female will just come to and feel at home,
Wow.
and literally be the best they can be because they have people like me there and some of my colleagues who will be affiliates, to help them, navigate through the industry. So that's one. And then my friends, I have a I have a group, a WhatsApp group called Aproko Progressive Union. Don't laugh. But my girlfriends, and
Wow. I didn't expect
we
that.
we talk about the stupidest things,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
sometimes tough. When we have a hard day at work or something, you see one person will just send a message. Can we all jump on a call? And
Yeah.
yeah, we are all there to inspire and just. We may not have the solutions to every problem, but just knowing that we're there for each other goes a long way.
Mm.
So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. Anita, I feel like you would have some extra points to give us on this.
Uh, um, on that question, no. But
Okay.
do you want something else
Okay,
outside of
no,
that?
no, no, no problem, no problem. I'll
Okay.
head back to the question. Hello,
Okay.
David. You're the first man to speak on this conversation. Hello.
Hello, hi everyone.
Hi.
Um,
Do you have something in particular you want to address, or do you have a question you'd like to ask any of our speakers?
yeah, I probably want to ask the speakers this question. I don't want to talk about myself now because I'm going through, a whole lot. But this is about the women. It's about my mom, and we kind of live in where my parents are actually kind of separated. So, she's she's barely around, and she still works at her age. She doesn't want to retire. She's a head teacher, of one of the schools on the island, and then the thing with mom is that she carries so much weight
Mm,
that when you see her, she's happy to see us and be like, oh my God, I've missed you guys. But the smile looks like she's going through 1,000 things and she's never going to tell
mm,
you
mm,
because she's always engrossed in work so much because she's basically kind of the breadwinner of the family. And we
mm,
understand that. And we know that, she's trying to train us to be hardworking and all that. But we can't get her, like, she doesn't have a hobby. Mommy's phone is ringing.
mm,
It's work. She doesn't have a friend. She doesn't have no friends. Nobody comes to visit her, and she's used to that life. And it feels like she's lonely, but she doesn't want to tell us that she's lonely. So we don't feel like at her age, our priority is actually to just chase a career and not really look after them,
mm,
because they feel it's their responsibility to take care of us. But what can I do? From, like, on her birthday, she doesn't want to go out. She doesn't. We get her gifts, but what can I tell her to come out of the shell? Because I know that she's going through stuff, but she feels like she can handle it and that
mm.
she's older than us and she has some experience. But I'm really worried for her.
Wow.
I'm really worried for her.
Thank you
David,
so much, David, for sharing this with us. Waje, you can take it from
yes,
here.
David just described my mom.
Wow. Really?
Yes. Yes. David, I'll tell you one thing, right? So my mom just turned 70 this year, and she doesn't have friends. She never did. We're literally her life. So and it's a bit difficult for me because I have friends and I know how to, find release, in my friends, but my mom doesn't. But here's what I think you should do. I think you should don't question her not being able to open up. What your mom needs is just to know that she has a friend in you guys that are her children, right? And just be there. And you find out that as you speak with her and sit with her, she starts to open up. It's enough for her. Now, in the part of retirement, I promise you that your mom working is also keeping her. The minute she stops, we have mothers that are like that. The minute they retire, they start to deteriorate. You understand? So it's the same thing with my mom. My mom is in the US right now. I told her come back. She says she's looking for work. She's 70.
Wow.
Yes. What does she want to do? She wants to go babysitting people. But I understand that that's what's
Mm,
keeping her alive. The minute I make her feel like, oh, you're an old woman, you just need to sit down and enjoy your children, she starts to deteriorate. So allow her, but just be, you and your siblings, if you have any, be her support system. Sometimes go to the house, watch a movie with her. I used to do that a lot with my mom when she was here. I will put YouTube or Nigerian movie. Me and my mom will be discussing. Even Yoruba movie, she doesn't understand Yoruba, but by the time she shouts, did you do, what did he do, it's a conversation. She's good.
mm.
You understand? Buy suya, buy the little things, so I know how you feel, but trust me, allow her, just be there and be her support system.
Thank you so much, Waje. And thank you, David, for sharing. I know it mustn't have been easy. Anita, do you have anything to add to what Waje has?
Yes. Yes, it is such a I can tell that you're so David. I can tell you're such a lovely son. But I would definitely say this, that it's the same thing as what Waje said. She just has found comfort, and she's older, and there's only so much you can tell her not to do. All you can do for her is be supportive and listen to the little things. You know what she loves, you know what she does not like. So focus on what she loves and just feed her with that. If she likes, like why do you say, if she likes to watch a movie, let her watch a movie, join her and have conversations you not naturally wouldn't have. If she likes, if she likes clothes or whatever, buy her a gift or something, but just pay attention to what she likes. And be sensitive to her love language. Let me put it that way. Instead
Mm.
of trying to turn her around and telling her, oh, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this. Yeah, that's all.
Thanks so much, Anita and Waje. I think your points were really valid. And thank you, David, for jumping in to the conversation and sharing that. I think what it just tells us is that this whole thing of mental health, it's not age specific. It doesn't just apply to only millennial women. It doesn't apply to only the Gen Z, but older generations, the baby bloomers as well. And we have to be sensitive to these issues. Like our speaker talked about earlier, you have to be sensitive, whether it's your staff, whether it's your mom, whether it's your sister, your friend, your girlfriend, your wife. You have to be sensitive to people's feelings, to how you are even making people feel at certain times, what you're doing, how it affects them, and how you can even make their lives much better. So thank you all so so much. We're slowly rounding up the conversation. So if you have any questions, please either tweet it in the messaging below, or request to join the conversation. We just have Falana now coming in. Hi Falana. We've missed you throughout this conversation, but thanks for joining in nonetheless. Hello Falana.
Oh, my time, my schedule was wrong. I'm so sorry, but I trust that it was a.
I
That's
figured.
so bad. I'm so sorry. I trust it was a great
I
conversation,
figured.
though.
Yes, it has been going so well. We're just shy of a few questions and then we'll round up. But so far, I know you've had a chance to look at the topic of
Yeah.
discussion. For anybody who doesn't know, and if you don't know really, just leave this call. But Falana is one of the leading ladies in music and has won us all over with her beautiful songs on self love, romance, black girl joy, personal struggles, etc., told from an African woman's perspective. In fact, in one article, Vogue hailed Falana as Nigeria's coolest front row star. And she stands out not only with her music, but with her stylistic expressions, known and she's known for her distinctive braid pom-poms, like you can see in her current hairstyle. So we're so happy to have you join
Oh,
us.
thank
Just if
you.
you could just give us maybe a quick brief about what you think about the topic in terms of women, work, and mental health in Nigeria, that'd be great as we slowly round up the
Wow.
conversation.
Okay. Well, thank you for still giving me the opportunity to speak, even though I'm very tardy from a mess up of scheduling in my agenda. But yeah, I think I don't want to go over obviously what has already been discussed, but I think really one thing that I think about when I think of mental health is the importance of community. And that is something that I think we sometimes underestimate. We think about mental health, we feel like we're very alone, especially when you're in a specific industry like in the music industry.
Yeah.
We feel very alone in our struggles, or we feel like people can't understand kind of the things that we're going through. And we also feel a lot of shame, because especially in the music industry, it's performance, right? So people need to see us
True.
performing a certain way or thriving in a certain way, shining in a certain way. And we're not actually given the space sometimes, especially as artists, to share our weaknesses. We might do it in the music, but we can't always, especially as women, we can't really be as vocal about some of the issues that we have. And I think what that does is it makes people feel and struggle in silos and struggle by themselves.
Mm,
So I know something that I have been really investing in recently, just as a human being, because yes, I'm an artist and all those things, but I'm also a human being. And I've been really trying to invest in community. It doesn't
mm,
it can be in your industry. Sometimes in your industry is the best place because the people understand what you're going through. But it doesn't necessarily have to be in your industry, but community is so important. You know, what community does is it takes you out. A lot of mental health is it's what's happening in your head. So you'll be going through all of these like things in your head, and it could be something that you feel like you're not doing as well as you want to be doing, or maybe even clinical. There's just so many different facets of mental health, and community for me is like one of the most important foundations for combating mental health, specifically as women. You know, um, being able to discuss issues and feel like you are supported and feel like you are loved and feel like you're in a nurturing environment. So wherever you get that, that is very important.
mm. Thanks so much, Falana. I think you just sort of tied in a lot of the things we've spoken about
Mm,
already, but really great to hear your perspective. I have one more question for
mm-hmm.
you, but we'll take that closer to the end of the conversation. Waje, I want to circle back to you because I know you're big on lending your voice to important conversations and you don't shy away from topics like these. At a government level, what kind of changes would you like to see in terms of women's health in Nigeria, women's mental health in Nigeria?
Well, first of all, to be honest, I haven't really thought about how, but in my mind, as you speak, I think that one of the best ways, or at least a way forward, is when this conversation comes up that is accepted and not discriminated at, so that we can, have um how do I put it? Not necessarily conferences like this, or not necessarily a conference, but active things that people can do to make sure that, in terms of their mental health, there are things that are put in place, or the government is helping us aid. You get. So
Mm,
let's say, for example, in a workplace, imagine if there was a situation where, especially in the corporate world, a situation where just as you take leaves, how people take leaves from their work, there's also something, or some sort of exercise that it's mandatory for every staff with regards to your mental health, or some kind of evaluation, the same way you do like medicals when you're um traveling or whatever, just
yeah.
something is that we can that's tangible, that we can hold on to and say, okay, this is the reason why this is done, to help us figure out and take care of our mental
Mm,
health. So,
mm,
yeah,
mm.
that's what comes to mind, but I haven't quite figured it out
No,
yet.
I think that's very powerful. I think that's something that we talking about it is great, and I hope and I know for sure we have some stakeholders and policymakers who are most likely in our audience listening to these, and I think these are the reason for these types of conversation. So
Right.
Anita, I'll just come to you, and I know someone asked, thanks Sandra, who had asked in the caption, how can we work towards a brighter and more secure? I'll just tailor it to say, what is your advice to women who feel their mental health is unsupported in their careers or personal lives?
Okay. So I would say this: number one, support is the last thing we should expect as human beings, in order to avoid disappointment. And as we all know, disappointment can lead to mental health deterioration.
Mm,
I feel like we shouldn't expect support, but
mm,
in the society that we're in, support should be given. But in the case where support isn't given, I think it boils down to kind of um, taking time out and just understanding what is causing these triggers. Until we figure out what is causing our triggers, we might not find answers. It's like, when you hear people say, oh, I have this friend that's always asking me a question. When you give her advice, just is what she wants to do, she wants to do. Sometimes it's better for us to kind of look inwards and figure out. And I think it's always good to understand that you have, you're suffering from, a mental health challenge or whatever, so that way you can actually deal with it. Being in the right circle of people, talking to the right people, and weeding out the people that are causing you any sort of trauma is also important as well. But as regards support, I think it's the last thing we should expect from human beings. I don't know if that makes sense.
mm.
So that way we're not disappointed, because realistically, there's only so much that another person can give. Until we start to figure out our own problems, we might not be able to find solution from someone else.
Mm. Wow, I think that's very incredible. Thank you so much, Anita, and thanks to Simi. She has shared 2 free mental health services in Nigeria. She writes Woman and Mentally Aware Nigeria Initiative, so you can check it out. It is under the tweet of this space. So just to round up, and I know our speakers already shared theirs. The 2 earlier speakers already shared that. Falana, what are some practices that you feel every woman, every leading lady who works hard, who is on their grind in Nigeria, needs to cultivate to boost their positive mental health?
Okay. Well, without saying, physical exercise has been
Mm,
physiologically proven to increase dopamine in your brain and improve mood. Um, so I think that's really, really important for um, even if you're struggling, being active physiologically can have positive impacts on your mental health.
yeah.
Um, I understand, especially I understand a lot of what Anita was saying in terms of like not relying on people for support in terms of mental health. But I think sometimes I fear that like isolation is also very dangerous, and a lot of the service like I think I don't want to misinterpret what she said.
Yeah.
She didn't say don't get help or anything, but I think making sure that you have um, like if you need to get a therapist or a mental health professional to reach out to specific sources that you can use um, to make sure that you are investing in your mental health, whether you're dealing with clinical situation or it's not yet diagnosed. Having someone that you can work with and work with you, I think, is really important. So you don't feel like you're by yourself. Um, so yeah.
Thank you so much. I think that's so powerful. We
Um,
have unfortunately come to the end of today's conversation. Guys, I
I
wanted
want
this
to
conversation. Okay, Anita, yes, please go ahead.
sorry.
Please go ahead. I
So
don't want the
I think
conversation to end, so go ahead.
no, after this, I think it's so important that I say this, because there was a time in my life where I suffered major anxiety because I
Mm-hmm.
was dealing with stuff, and I would say this: not a lot of people would. I know Falana spoke about clinical depression, but there's one thing that truly helped me in that time of my life is just turning to God.
Mm,
That and I've just come to
Yeah.
realize a lot of times when we're looking for calm, when you open your Bible, there's a word for you. And in that point, at that point in my life, that's what helps me. I remember I had I was suffering a panic attack. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even pick up my phone. I couldn't like I wasn't physically able, and for some reason someone called me. It was a random call from Pastor Mildred Okonkwo. I don't know if anyone knows her, and I was able to tell her what was going on. And she kind of spoke some words into my life. Like she read some Bible passages, and it was incredible how my heart just like the hold on my chest just released. And it was from that moment I kind of like figure that whenever I'm feeling that way, I need to just turn to the word. And for me, that is what helps me. I don't know if it's gonna help someone else, but that was a huge, huge, huge help for me at that time.
Thanks
So
so
yeah,
much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate. I appreciate everybody's input today. This conversation has been so amazing. I didn't even want it to end. If we could talk all night, I'll be here for it. But we have to let our speakers go. Thanks to everybody who tuned in and everybody who shared a perspective, who retweeted, who liked, who did anything at all for this conversation. I'm so happy to continue to spread the word on women's mental health in Nigeria, on female economic empowerment. And like I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, we will be having discussions like this each Wednesday for the rest of November, and in December till the 21st of December, every Wednesday at 6 p.m. We're having these HerVersations, and I don't want anybody to miss it, so always join in. Thanks so much, Waje. Thanks, Anita. And thank you, Falana, for being awesome.
thanks for having us.
Thank,
Thank you, ladies. Thank you,
thank you so
everyone.
much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye. This recording will be available to listen on the BellaNaija Style YouTube channel. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.